Hello everybody. In this video I'm going to be talking about failure because I think it's a topic that I haven't spoken about and what happens before failure and after failure. Now this idea comes to me because I was reading Sartre's biography, and in it he says, "I rushed into humility in order to evade humiliation," right? Um, so he says this because he's trying to show off. He's trying to, no, let me correct that. He's not trying to show off. He's trying to impress people. And when he's trying to impress people, because he's a kid, but he already had this like need ever since he was a little kid, the adults see that as him trying to show off, and they judge him on that, right? That's like when you're pretentious, when you're acting, when you're not being natural, or you're not really being yourself. And so they start to judge him, and that's why he says, in order for me to avoid humiliation, right, if I persisted in that behavior, I bury myself, or I hide into humility, right, which is just being humble and basically like staying quiet, right? Excuse me. So this is, I'll come back to these ideas, these emotions. But for me, this is like where I take off from this idea, right? Where you could either be inactive, humble, right? Not do anything. So you don't run the risk of coming off as a fool, but you also don't run the risk of potentially being great, right? Or popular. And you also have the potential, right, which I just mentioned, is being active and actually trying to do trying to be great, right? But you could fall into humiliation. Now, let's talk specifically about failure. I have two ways in which I was thinking about failure. Failure can either be viewed as people that have very low tolerance. And we could talk in another video about where all of this comes from, which I have an idea. But there are people that have very low tolerance currently for failure, and there are people that have very high tolerance for failure, right? So let's talk about the people that have very low tolerance, so I can be specific about what I mean by tolerance. What I mean by tolerance is that you're able to take on different forms, or you're able to repeatedly experience failure but persist. So there are people that can't do that often. They have low tolerance of failure, right? So this means that they try something out, they fail, it hurts them deeply, and they just give up, right? And these people tend to fall into the pits of depression, right? And they just stay there because it's kind of like, why am I even trying if I know I'm gonna fail, right? Now, this would be personality type B people. Now, there are other people that have high tolerance for failure. And since we're discussing failure in general, these people are also going to fail, but they're going to fail many times. They're going to fail repeatedly, right? So they try something, they try to achieve something, they can't achieve it. And basically they could get like frustrated, angry, or whatever, but like they get back up and they try again and they fail again, and they try again and they fail again, right? Now they have high tolerance of failure, but that doesn't mean they don't have a limit. Eventually they're going to get to a limit, and after so many failure attempts, right, trying and failing, they are going to be resentful. Now, both situations are bad, right? Because over here you have passive people where basically they're depressed, right? And they're not trying, they gave up in general. And then you have other people which are have been trying for a long time. And I think they have a very valid argument, which is, I have been trying for so long, I have been making an effort, right, for so long, and I have repeatedly been failing, right? So these are type A personality people, right, where they're actually trying, but they're not succeeding. And this could lead to these emotions of humiliation, right? So there are people where Yes, they have low tolerance, they give up, they're depressed. There are people that have high tolerance, they keep trying, but eventually they get resentful because they don't see any results. Now, of course, there are the type of people, there's a third category and a fourth category. The third category is the people that just say, you know what, failure, I learn from failure, right? I obtain more experience. I get more experience from all my failures. So I just keep failing and failing and failing. I'm not really trying to achieve anything, even. I'm just simply on the ride of learning and learning from my mistakes, and, which could be a good thing, a bad thing, I don't know, but they're comfortable with failure, basically. And then there are people, of course, that may fail a couple times, and then they achieve great results, right? That's the fourth kind of people. So my question is, how do you try, right? How do you try to succeed? Do you give it all, right? Do you give it your all, or are you doing only like 50% of the things, and you're expecting the circumstance to do the other 50%? I mean, be very honest with yourself. Genuinely answer this question. If you have been experiencing failure, have you really been giving it your all, right? Because there are people like me that say, yes, I have been trying. I have been making videos, I have been making music, right? I've been doing these things that I think should get me places, but they're not getting me places. So I'm feeling frustrated. I think I'm failing, right? But then it's like, are you really trying? Like, look at someone that achieves success. I mean, like, I was looking at Aleman. He's from Baja California, I think, and Los Cabos, San Lucas. And I was seeing that he has a song. It's one of my most watched videos. My reaction to Línea de Tiempo on my channel, and in it he says that he went from his birthplace, from his hometown, to Mexico City, right? So he could be successful. He went to the capital of the country so he could achieve fame. So it's like, he was all in it, right? So this is what I mean about being all in it, because I think I'm like expecting the circumstances to favor me, the context, the situation, other people. I'm like, I'll do some of the work, but I'm not doing it all. I need the situation to correspond, to reciprocate me, right? And I get frustrated because I'm saying I'm doing an effort, right? I'm giving it my all, but I'm really not giving it my all. If I'm being honest with myself, I'm not, right? Because I could be doing more things, right? But yeah, that's the thing. So just be honest with yourself. Really ask yourself, are you really trying to achieve things? And I think it's proportionate to the level of frustration you're gonna feel, the level of resentment, the level of humiliation you're gonna feel eventually if you fail after trying. You risk so much, you put so much time, effort, money, whatever into it. You give it your all, right? Like literally selling all your things, moving to a different city, and trying to achieve that success. Like people that go to Los Angeles or Hollywood to try to be famous actors or actresses or singers or whatever, and they fail. That must be devastating, right? So it's like unconsciously, maybe I'm taking that into consideration. I'm factoring that in, and I'm like, no, because that's gonna destroy me, right? If I fail and I betted so much into it, I put so much into it, right? And then lastly, I want to speak about the people that do succeed, but I don't think they succeed because they are trying, or they're moving to different cities, they're selling all their things, they're really all in it, or the circumstances. I think they succeed because they're naturally gifted at interacting with other people, right? I think it's all about the social realm. Now, think about in school, when you have students that seem to never do anything. They never show up to class. They don't do the work, right? They're tardy, they're absent, whatever. And they still seem to pass their classes. They eventually graduate, and they end up working, and they end up becoming those type of workers that slack off, that everybody knows they're bad people, but they get away with it, right? Somehow, some way. And I think it's because they master the social realm. They know how to work people. They knew how to work their parents. They knew how to work their teachers. And now they know how to work just people in general. So I think it goes back to the idea of it's all about connections, right? So if you position yourself in the correct spots, whether it's like Hollywood or your common everyday factor, your workplace. I think it boils down to the social element, the social factor. That's what is ultimately going to get you success, right? Being able to move around the different social circles, right? Being able to position yourself socially, not so much trying or, investing your heart, your blood, sweat, and tears, time, money, everything, your resources into your dreams, but knowing how to work people, which is kind of stupid at the end of the day. And it basically like tells us 90s kids generation, my generation, that the adults lied to us when they said just work hard. Maybe that worked for their generation, right? Like just work hard and you'll achieve your dreams. That's not true, right? Because you just end up experiencing failure after failure, and then you'll either give up very early on, or you'll continue to try, but eventually you'll see that it gets you nowhere, so you'll just end up being frustrated and resentful, right? So, what is your opinion? Let me know. Do you think that I'm wrong? Do you think that there are other factors to consider? There may be. These are just some ideas that I got. But yeah, they're pretty nasty feelings that come with being exposed to failure, right? Like humiliation, depression, maybe even anger, right? Anxiety, all of those things. So let me know what you think in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video. All right, peace.